starts off. Good evening. I'm Latricia Worthy reporting for SMH News, Channel 27. Right now, I am on the scene at the Embassy Suites Hotel where a press conference for Governor Edwards is now in progress. Let's take a look at what's going on.
Ms. Chester.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little about the governor's early years? Was he heavily addicted to gambling before he became governor?
Well, first a little bit about his early years. The governor was born the son of a sharecropper, his father with a 3rd grade education, his mother with a 7th grade education. He was the first one in his family who decided to go to college. He attended Louisiana State University and at age 21 finished law school. In 1954, he ran for city council. He won that election. In 58, he was re-elected again and won that election. In 1963, he ran for state senate. It was in a special election, he won that. In 1965, he was re-elected, 1966, 68, and 1970. And then, of course, in 1971, 75, and 1983, he became governor.
I see we have now had a brief introduction on Governor Edwards' life.
Why isn't the governor himself here today? Is he afraid to face the nation?
No, not at all. The governor can't be in 2 places at once. He is right now touring the state, visiting churches. I am just here representing him. As I said before, he cannot be in 2 places at once.
But was he heavily addicted to gambling before he became governor?
The governor's gambling is a hobby. Some people like to hunt, some fish, some tennis. He likes gambling. I wouldn't call it an addiction. I would call it simply a pastime.
Miss Chester, could you tell us about the clip that was put in gubernatorial candidate Robert L. Livingston's commercial?
No comment.
Is it true that Mr. Edwards goes to Las Vegas and spends the state's money? And if it's not true,
Oh,
what is
wait,
this?
absolutely not. The governor has never used the state's money in gambling at Las Vegas. The governor was a lawyer. He owns ranches. He's a very successful businessman. He is well known for dealing in oil and gas industries. No, he has never once used the state's money in gambling.
Okay.
Miss Chester.
Ms. Chester, state employees have not had an across-the-board pay raise since 1981. Back in '85, he promised the state employees a raise. Why haven't they received this raise?
Well, that deals with legislation. The governor, he can't produce the money at this time, but what he did, he went to the, wait.
I understand that there was a new pay plan instituted in...
We're now going to take a station break, but we'll be back right in a moment.
Married to Gail Clement of Shoepick, Louisiana. 5 children, Christy, Bill, Thomas, John, and Michael. He's a member of the Committee on Merchant Marine and Fisheries. He's also on the Subcommittee of Fisheries and Wildlife Conservation and Environment. For cleaning up the environment. He has his back.
He's for helping the high school student prepare for the future.
His education priorities consist of full funding of minimum foundation and formula and full funding of special education and gifted students programs.
He's for raising teachers' wages and promising higher entrance standards for new teachers.
Hello, my name is Billy Tozan. Education is the key to open the doors of opportunity, which must be open if our state and our children are to prosper.
Some of his other education priorities include intervention program for the at-risk children to discourage dropouts and reduce illiteracy, private sector partnerships between community and business leaders with the schools, volunteer programs to encourage parents, retired senior citizens, and older students to participate in achievement standards for advancement and graduation together with monitoring and remedial assistance.
Edward says that when I went off to Washington, I lost touch with Louisiana. Do you really believe that? I don't either. I would really appreciate your vote on October 24th as I run for the office of governor. Thank you.
Paid for by Billy Tozan.
Miss Chester, why did the governor go into politics?
Because he felt that politics was a tool to implement programs that he thought would be important then and now to the people who give out ballots. They support him, and if you'll notice the definition of donations, contribution or gift, therefore he owes nothing back to these people.
Okay. How has the governor taken the news of Buddy Romer leading in the independent polls that have been taken? Does he feel that Romer paid off the poll, or does he think that the actions were fair?
Well, let me take a quote from Edwards. Edwards says that Buddy Romer is probably the best orator in the group. He doesn't mean what he says or understands what he says. He says what he thinks people wants to hear, and I have information here that can back that up. For instance, Buddy Romer said that there were 200 employees in the California education system, when in fact there are 3,000. So really he's not concerned at all, because the people will soon, quote again, realize and catch the hypocrisy, his sincerity, and his inaccuracy. That is his own personal reason.
Okay. We never hear Edwards admitting to his own wrongdoings. He has been blaming the legislature for failure to tackle the state's fiscal problems, and he blames Trine for putting us in this fiscal problem. Why doesn't he use a method called the truth? He is not telling the truth. He has put us in this deficit also.
Let me say this. When Edwards left in 1980, he left $600 million as a surplus, and the unemployment was low. When he returned again, there was a 13% unemployment, and the $600 million surplus that had been dissipated to where we owed $160 million to keep the budget in balance. Now, that was just like starting over.
For the past 4 years, he has.
But wait, that was just like starting over again. So there went Edwards on his way again to get us back to the state we were. But then oil dropped out. Edwards isn't God. He can't come and say, oil, come back again. It just happened. So he had to find another way to finance us. That's when he turned to gambling and casinos.
Doesn't he think that the gambling casinos will bring a bigger problem into Louisiana?
Not at all. You see, the gambling and the lottery and casinos, let me say, lottery has nothing to do with gambling, but therefore will institute so many more millions of dollars that can be going to roads, education, things the public needs. Gambling is only going to be one casino in one place inside of New Orleans. Therefore, how can it bring any problem? But it can institute 40,000 jobs. There's so much more that it can bring.
But still, it can bring a lot of violence too. That can bring a lot of violence. New Orleans already has a lot of violence.
Did not have 1%, not 1% crime rate in its time.
This is Louisiana.
It seems like she's stumbled. Well, there it was. You saw it right here live on Channel 27, a press conference for the incumbent Governor Edwards, where questions were asked from all aspects of his life. We'll continue now with our regularly scheduled program, but we'll be back later for some brief highlights.
It is a mock debate, and we like to make it clear that everything said in the debate is not our views about the candidate, but these are actual statements that the candidates have made during the gubernatorial race.
I would like to welcome you out to our 1987 gubernatorial debate. We have with us today Mr. Jim Brown.
Mr. Buddy Romer. Mr. Brown, you're in the wrong place.
And we also have with us Mr. E. Lee.
Thank you, thank you.
Better known as Edwin Edwards.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That up there? Well, forget it. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Romer.
I want to go first. I'm the governor. Why can't I go first?
Mr. Romer.
I want to go first. I'm the governor.
Mr. Romer.
Let me go first. I'm more important.
Would you please be
I
quiet?
believe it.
Mr. Romer, may we please have your opening statement?
Yes, I believe that Louisiana has come to the point where we need a definite change in government. We need the Roma Revolution. We need to revolutionize our government, create more efficiency, and create a better state of government, and just to redo the entire gubernatorial system, because it's come to a point where small changes aren't going to make any difference, and we need to start from scratch in order to bring the state out of the trouble it's in now.
Mr. Brown.
Louisiana, I have a plan to rebuild confidence in the voters of our public officials. And I would like to be given the chance to put that plan into effect.
Okay, Mr. Brown, could you tell us about your background?
Well, I'm 47 years old with a wife and 4 kids. As far as education goes, I have studied literature at Cambridge University in England. I also have a BA degree in English from University of North Carolina and a law degree from Tulane. And as far as experience, I'm a former state senator and 2-term Secretary of State.
Mr. Wilmer?
I'd be glad to. I was born October 4th, 1943 in Shreveport, Louisiana. I've been a lifelong resident of Bossier Parish, where I attended public high school at Bossier High. At Bossier High, I was elected student body president and graduated class valedictorian of the class. At 16, yes 16, I entered Harvard Law School. In 1967, I received a master's degree in business and finance from Harvard Business School. After college, I returned to Bossier City, where I founded 2 banks and my own computer company and managed successfully, proving I have the management capabilities to manage the state. In 1980, I defeated the incumbent congressman to become Louisiana's representative from the 4th Congressional District, and I am now on my 4th term, having run unopposed 3 times.
Mr. Romer, how would you plan on balancing the state's budget?
I think the state can reduce its budget and still provide full services. And the only way to do this is to reduce the state's workforce. And the key to doing this is efficiency, because there's a lot of wasteful spending going on in our government and a lot of money being spent on expenditures that are really not necessary. And I think my basic summary is to cut the fat out of the budget and remove what's unnecessary.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Well, right this time I have no definite plan to balance the state's budget. But if elected governor, I would review the state's financial situation and see what I can do.
How do you feel about Louisiana's educational system, Mr. Romer?
I think there's also a lot of waste in the educational system. And I think if I was elected governor, I would break up the top 3 floors of the Department of Education and to teach the teachers' salaries. Because we have to realize the teachers for what they are, and they're opening the gate to the future. And we should pay them for what they're worth, and we should evaluate our teachers so that our children receive the best possible education they could possibly have.
Mr. Romer, how would you go about doing this, evaluating the teachers?
I believe we should give them tests and true evaluation tests, not just political.
Emergency, I have to go.
How do you feel about the Louisiana educational system?
Well, first of all, Louisiana has no preschool program or mandatory kindergarten. As far as teachers are concerned, I'd treat our teachers better, I'd pay them better, and I'd evaluate our teachers. Finally, I deal with the massive problem of adult education. We've got the highest level of adult illiteracy in this country. We need to declare an all-out war on adult illiteracy with senior citizens, college groups, and a whole array of people to shut down that tremendous problem that's such a drain on our economy.
Has Edwards been here?
I don't know.
Hey, Fred.
Hi. You know, there's a big governor's race coming up this weekend. Yeah. I'm gonna vote for Buddy Romer. I'm for him. He's for us, you know?
He'll pull the state back together.
Yeah, he seems like a real honest guy. He won't accept large campaign contributions like other candidates.
I was about to tell you, Mr. Romer is touring the plant today.
Yeah. Isn't that him over there?
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Romer.
How y'all doing? Glad to see y'all working hard.
Mr. Romer?
Hi, my name is Buddy Romer, and I need your support in the upcoming election for governor. If I'm elected, I'll start a revolution in Louisiana, the Romer Revolution. As part of the revolution, I plan to fight against corruption and make Louisiana a better place to live in. I will create more jobs and bring industry back to Louisiana. I also intend to improve the education system by limiting the size of the classes and paying teachers more.
Mr. Brown, if you do not get into the runoff, will you endorse another candidate?
If I don't get into the runoff, and there is belief that I won't, I'm not sure who I will endorse. But I strongly stand against Mr. Buddy Rowe.
Mr.
For the state's situation, and yet he claims that he can't do anything because Treen had left the state in such a situation. And if he can make such a claim like that and turn around and say he can't be blamed for it, I just can't support something like that.
What type of people is your campaign trying to appeal to, Mr. Romer?
One Edwards doesn't create one new job or educate one more child. You can't blame all the state's problems on one man, even though he blames it all on Dave Treen. So, even though it is fun, it's not necessary to ridicule him.
Some of my most noteworthy endorsements are from the state's papers, such as the Morning Time and the Times-Picayune. And you might note that I am endorsed by the most papers than any other candidate in this race.
Why do you feel you are best qualified to be the next governor, Mr. Romer?
I think that's a simple question. Because, number one, my education. And as you've probably heard, I skipped 5th grade. I was class valedictorian, attended Harvard at 16 and graduated from Harvard Business School. And I have the experience in 4 terms in Congress.
Louisiana want it. Our children deserve it. I think the future demands it.
Thank you. We now close this session of the 1987 Gouverneur.
Why is it that, this is towards Mr. Buddy Romer, you stated that there was $15 million saved from raising the legal drinking age to 21. You went around and in 3 different places within the same week, you stated that you would take the $15 million and use it to make 3 new highways 4 lanes, when in fact, to 4 lane, 1 new highway, it will cost $150 million.
I'm unaware where you get these figures, but I don't believe they're correct.
I can give you them from the newspaper right now.
We'll fork them up.
In this short intermission, I will take another.
To Mr. Edwards, is it true that you did in fact use the state's money to go to Las Vegas and gamble using an alias chain line?
Of course.
I believe we have another question over here, host.
I have a question for Mr. Edwards. Earlier in the debate that we saw, press conference we saw presented by Ms. Chester, she said that the gambling that you proposed would be only at one site in the city of New Orleans and it would bring in millions of dollars. Well, there's a question I had to follow up on this. Hasn't it been proven that gambling brings more prostitution and drugs and a breakdown of law and order?
I'd like to answer that question, but I also like to comment on her figures. 1 casino, 40,000 people. Are we talking, what, 5 Superdomes here? Where in the world does somebody say 40,000 jobs? She does not represent me. I disassociate myself from her. It is not 40,000. Now about your question. Now you sit down. About your question.
40,000 jobs.
Pipe
You need
down, I'm not talking to you.
electricianers,
Shut up.
you need construction workers,
Bouncer.
you need bus
Somebody
drivers.
get her. Okay.
Mr. Edwards.
I'm answering a question.
Tiffany.
I'm
Mr.
answering a
Edwards,
question.
we would appreciate if you would calm down.
Calm down.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Yes. I personally am not totally familiar with these figures, but I do know that Las Vegas seems to have a large organized crime rate and prostitution. I don't know how exactly it would affect Louisiana, but it would bring in some jobs. Not 40,000, but it would bring some jobs into the state.
Don't you feel that's not an even trade-off if you get a lot more prostitution and increased crime rates?
Well, that's for the people to decide, not me.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
That's not accurate.
It seems to come in other states, such as Las Vegas. I guess it would come in Louisiana. It seems. Okay, excuse me. I've been informed by Mrs. Chester that I'm a total goofball, and I don't know what I'm talking about. So we'll let her answer the question.
Wait, so since you said you do believe it's going to bring in drugs and prostitution, why are you proposing this?
Because it will. See, the state has a rather tough situation because we have such a large deficit, and that seems to be the way to get the state out of this deficit.
And who do you think put us in this deficit in the first place?
Well,
And don't say trade.
well, the deficit occurred in my term of office, so.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
All right, let's stop right here.
I will wait.
Announce that they're endorsing you.
I wish not to comment on that.
Mr. Brown, I think he's asking you.
And you also,
something about the man's character.
You also commented on saying.
All right, stop. All that of yours who has never voted in an election asks you tonight, because you have been in a civics class, for whom should they vote tomorrow? Because they don't know. Think about it that way. And Brett, you come up here and lead the discussion, okay? And you two feel free to join in whenever you would like. Just stand up, why don't you?
I would suggest Edwards because right now, in the condition the state is in, we don't need on-the-job training. If we were to get Edwards back in, Edwards is the only one who has stated to the public a specific plan, stated the negative and positive aspects of the plan, and he is so familiar with what is going on in the state. He knows how much it costs to build a road, how much it costs to get a backhoe out to these people who need to move this in this part of the city. Edwards knows what's going on, he knows how to get it done, and he's got the power to do it.
I'd like to respond to Tiffany's answer because I believe when she talks about on-the-job training, she doesn't realize that Romer has just as much as Edwards because every year in Congress, Buddy Romer has earned the Taxpayer's Best Friend Award for trimming the budget. And Buddy's Romer's version of the budget, which by the way, he's the only senator who was allowed to submit his own budget, and his budget received more votes than the president's budget did. And I have a personal friend who's going to vote tomorrow, and I'm encouraging her to vote for Romer because he is the most qualified candidate. He has the highest education, the most experience.
If someone asked me, I would say Buddy Romer because he doesn't owe any favors to anybody. He is not being endorsed. He is not paying anyone to endorse him, as Edwards is paying $200,000 or 200 what million? Or
No,
something?
not million.
What, 90,000? 290,000 to be endorsed. So I do think that he's going to owe somebody once he gets in office. And what's he going to do? Give that person jobs. Buddy Romer has not paid anyone to endorse him. He has not paid that I have seen for a poll to be taken. And I notice now he is first. He is first. At one point, he was last. So, if anything, I would say Buddy Romer.
And he's also the...
Edwards has experience, but experience at what? Running up a debt? I mean, sure, he's got experience. We need somebody new who hasn't ever put the state into these problems to let them try. And that's why I say Buddy Romer, because he doesn't have a campaign debt himself. Now, if his campaign is not in debt, and all the other candidates are, that tells you something about him right there.
I'd like to comment on her and her response about handpicking friends to go, about picking friends to take state jobs as Owen favors. If I can say this from the Bible, Jesus came down and in his omnipotent wisdom hand-selected 12 disciples. One betrayed him, one denied him, and one doubted him. Edwards cannot hand-pick each person when he's dealing with 4.5 million. That's what I want to say with that. And with the part about the campaign debt, just the definition of, donation is contribution or gift, means you don't have to return it. So therefore, with this, these people have chosen to give him this money. He doesn't owe them anything.
So then you're saying that somebody gave you $40,000, you feel an obligation to them?
Just because he feels an obligation, he will do what is right. I mean, he is not worried about concerning what the people think at the time. He will go ahead, do what has to be done, get it done.
Hold on, Joseph. I would like to comment on Tiffany's answer. She has stated that well, you can't handpick out of 4 million. What'd you say?
4.5.
Yeah, 4.5 million, and I agree with her. But it does not mean you give the job to the people that have paid you money.
Prove that he's done that.
Tiffany.
He admitted.
He admitted it. Yes, I agree with Tommy. And also, you're talking about him being familiar with the state problems. I hope he is, since he's the one that has helped cause the state problems.
Okay, on the contribution issue, Edwards accepts every contribution, where Buddy Romer has been offered numerous contributions but has not accepted them because he doesn't feel as if he needs them.
That's his choice. That's Edward's choice.
So maybe Edwards thinks he needs them.
Maybe he needs it for some gambling in Las Vegas.
Right.
Tommy?
I believe Edwards said that he would give state jobs to people who paid him money, but that he did that back when there was no law against it. And maybe it wasn't illegal, but it certainly tells you something about his character.
Even, like she said, an obligation. If he feels it's an obligation, he might feel once he get in office, it's his obligation to give somebody, pay somebody back, just one friend maybe. He might give that job, anyway. Like recently, I heard Tommy saying he gave a job away. He gave someone a job not long ago whilst he was in office. I know that. So that was because of a contribution. So.
I'm just saying that if it wasn't illegal, it was done all the time, well, then no one thought anything of it. But now that they need to get down to the nitpicky things to try and get... He has been indicted so many times, and I mean, if he's been indicted this many times and not been convicted, everyone could probably tell you anything about the man's past because his personal life has been thrown public.
Sean?
I wanted to say something about Romer. I think that what they say about him not owing any debts to people as friends, I think that's true, and I think that we need to get rid of this Louisiana socialist method with the populists, the down-home Cajun cronies, help out your brother. Doesn't matter if the state's corrupt as long as everyone gets a hand in a cookie jar. As Edward said, he was the protege to Uncle Earl. And I think that Buddy Romer has, in a sense, shown that he's not a part of that clan, if you want to call it that. So I think in that way that he would be the best choice.
I have a question for Tiffany. Why don't you think Buddy Romer would do a good job if he gets in office?
Well, as a personal view and from stated facts, I think he's a hypocrite. He says what we want to hear and not. He doesn't even know what he's saying. Like I gave.
Wait. How do you know he doesn't know?
Like I gave the example, stated, fact written down, black and white, that when he said the $15 million he would use for 3 state highways to be 4-lane, when in fact it takes $150 million to do 1 4-lane highway. I mean, that's that there. Then he says 200. He says 200 people in the California education. There's really in fact 3,000. I mean, there's just so many things you can't dig everything up.
Okay, Jim.
I believe you say Buddy Romer's a hypocrite. Buddy Romer has, what's the word, given out several on something that's written down.
It's 30 pages now.
I'm sorry, I had the wrong information.
Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, well, she doesn't think Romer would make a good governor. The papers endorse the candidates whom they think would make the best governor, and they usually do a good job.
Right.
And I don't see why you don't think Romer would not make a good governor.
Want me to come back at that? What I was going to come back with was, if the paper does such a good job, let's leave it up to the media to do everything. Oh, we're messed up there because look, wait, because of the media, I bet maybe one out of 200 people here know. We had 13 of the top schools in the nation. But
they were
no, not all.
Scotlandville
It
wasn't.
doesn't matter. It was top schools in the nation. If other schools can have private too, then if other states in the nation can have private schools,
aren't funded by
then
the
also
state.
we have 3 of the best cities in the nation to live in. That was also, but we don't hear anything about this. The World's Fair was doing fine. The media got a hold of the World's Fair, blew it out of proportion. People were scared to come in here because of what was going on because they heard so much.
But I see nothing against Buddy Romer, but I think that too many people are just looking at Edwards as faults. And half the time, the faults that people are looking at, they have no facts against it. Nobody, because they say that he spends our money to go gambling. Nobody can prove that. It's been proven. He's gone to court. I mean, if it was true, I'm sure they would have found out about it. You need to look. You need to be more open-minded and look on both sides of all situations for all governments.
I just wanted to say something right quick. I don't necessarily think Edwards did a bad job, but I think it's time for a change. He's been governor, I believe, 3 terms or something, isn't that right, Tiffany? And I'm not saying he's done a bad job, but I think we need a change. It's time for a change now. Tim?
I have a newspaper article from the State Times and Morning Advocate I'd like to read. This article is about the choice between Governor Edwards and Buddy Romer in the gubernatorial race. And it says, quote,
I would support a candidate other than Edwards.
Oh.
And how many of y'all would support Edwards?
Well, Edwards, all I can say is Edwards must be doing something right, because up until, recently they say Romer's in the lead. He had been all in the lead. And I mean, all these endorsements indicted.
But he's never been convicted.
But I don't think they would indict him if they didn't think. But wait, I don't think they would indict him if they didn't think anything.
That all goes with probable cause.
Wrong, right?
They thought they had probable cause, but they were wrong.
Sean was talking about Louisiana politics. Did y'all agree with him?
Yeah.
The way politics has been done?
Yeah, we're unique. I mean, we got to be the only state that runs that is so much into the gubernatorial race. I mean, we treat it like it's the president's race.
Whoa, no.
That's not the question.
I was just trying to explain that there was an article in a magazine. I forgot what it was. I forgot the name of the magazine, but it was explaining about cronyism and the populists and the so-called socialist organization that was created when Huey P. Long took administration, where, it doesn't matter if the state's corrupt. When they all go behind closed doors, they all help each other out, and as long as everybody gets their hand in the cookie jar, it's okay. That's what I was trying to explain. That's why I think...
So you think that that's something that should change now?
Yes, I do.
Does everybody think that?
Yeah. Around the nation to be like this. People from other states think Louisiana, you're a bunch of good old boys, crooked politicians. And that's not a good image for our state.
Yeah. I think it's time to change the state.
That's right.
I like to make an impartial view. I think all these accusations are kind of out of proportion. I think the media blows everything out of proportion. There's so many accusations on the governors, what they did wrong. It could be the condition of the state at that time. You can't necessarily blame on the governor just because you heard it. Like we discussed before you give your statements to have facts behind it, and I think the media's totally blown it out of proportion. I'm not really partial to any governor, just as long as someone in office is doing the right thing. You can't just blame them for being in office and something happened at the time. It could be the condition of the state. Like during Edwards' term, OPEC lowered its prices. Oil went down, the state was in the bad condition. You can't blame that down on Edwards.
Let me ask you something else. We filmed Edwards yesterday at a rally, and one of the things he talked about is that he brought a lot of things to the state. He says he got highways built, got hospitals built, things like that. Do you all agree that he brought things to the state?
No. Yes.
I mean, I have to. Hold on. Okay, Joseph. I have to agree. He did bring some good things to the state, but like even before he was tried and everything, he had been reported to say that he was ready to resign his position because he was scared he was going to get put in jail or something, or be picking rocks in some mountain.
Do you think it makes any difference whether the way somebody goes and gambles in Las Vegas?
Yes.
No. If the state's going right, the personal life isn't an issue. Look at Gary Hart. Gary Hart.
Otherwise it sounds like a mess.
Gary Hart could have been probably a very, very successful president, but we dug into his personal life, which is people. They always say don't mix pleasure with business. Well, then why mix their personal life with their professional life?
Somebody feel another way?
Okay,
I feel differently about that because, Tiffany, if you look into his personal life, he goes to Las Vegas. He doesn't make that much. It looks like he's spending our money. You know, and look at but look at our state. It's not in a good condition or anything.
It's embarrassing.
You know, it's really embarrassing. I mean, if he has enough time to go to Las Vegas and look at our state, he's spending some money. What money is he spending? Is it our money?
His money.
You don't know that.
There's no
I feel like
proof.
this. So much of Governor Edwards' life has been turned over. I think that if he was spending our money, people would know about it. And most of it so far is rumor. I mean, just like they say, Governor Edwards has money. He used to be a lawyer. He owns all. I mean, you can see where he gets his money from if people would open their eyes and stop trying to look at just the bad things that he's done. You have to look at the good and the bad and weigh them on both sides, because everybody's just saying, well, Governor Edwards has done this wrong. He's done this wrong. He's done this wrong. But nobody's ever saying what he's done right.
Let me ask you
Nobody's ever
something else.
proved it.
Who is supporting Governor Edwards? I mean, who people are going to vote for him? I know in this room who's supporting him, but you think around the state, what kind of people?
The poor, the
One at
disadvantaged.
a time, please. One at a time.
People who aren't that informed about the way he acts, who voted for him for years since his first term, and they say, I'm gonna vote for Edwards. They don't care what's said about him, I'm voting for Edwards. You know, my dad's voted for Edwards, I'm gonna vote for Edwards, we're all gonna vote for Edwards. And they don't really pay any attention to what he's actually doing as governor.
I think that he's a Democrat, right? So he's gonna obviously vote for the minorities, or he's supporting the minorities, the blacks, the poor people, and I think we need a Republican. I think it's time for a change.
I'm not saying anything against any other. It's so against Edwards, but then a couple terms ago, everyone was, oh, Edwards, Edwards, he's our man. Everyone wanted Edwards. But then when we lost oil, which our state is an oil-based state, all of a sudden you're left to come up with something. He's come up with something, and the people say, no, we're scared of the crime. But then statistics have shown, like I gave 1% in Atlanta, 1% crime rates. That.
Do you think people enjoy watching governors like that in their escapades?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's common.
Yeah.
Why do you think people like it?
It gives a good story for the media, and it causes arguments and debates. I don't know. It's just it's controversial. Yeah.
Well, why is that interesting to people? I mean, what do you think?
Well, in a
Louisiana
boring state
politics
like
is
Louisiana.
different than other states?
Yes.
In what
Definitely.
way?
Well, about the other thing, why people like it, I think it seems to me people just like to see arguing. Anything that they can dig up about somebody that's bad, they know it's going to cause trouble, they do it. The media does it all the time. People do it. You see it at school. You see it, everywhere. If you can find something about somebody that's bad, you're going to bring it up so it can cause a lot of controversy. And that's what people are looking for, controversy and arguing.
Okay, I happen to think that a lot of times when it comes to Louisiana elections, people go into the booth and they'll select whoever's most familiar to them. They don't really know about the issues.
They'll close their eyes and just choose.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Because I know an 18-year-old that told me they were just going to close their eyes and choose because he didn't know, but he had to vote.
I agree with Brandon. I think the average person is going to, instead of trying to experiment with something different, they're going to stick with what they have. They say, well, maybe if we vote for Romer, something worse can happen. We don't know. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Edwards won. Go ahead, Blake.
Have you seen in the other states anything like Louisiana?
No.
Not at all.
Never.
Tell me where you lived and tell me what it was like there as opposed to what it's like here.
I lived in Pennsylvania for 6 years, and I mean, if someone goes and they run for governor, they run a little campaign, but it's not as big and elaborated as it is here. Everybody's on everybody's case, and they want to bring up the dirt on everybody. It was not as much involved up in Pennsylvania.
Anybody else?
Like on the national news when Edwards was on trial, it was like jury picked in Louisiana governor trial, Louisiana governor indicted, Louisiana governor acquitted, Louisiana governor investigated for this. He's constantly on the national news, and you don't see governors from other states in the national news unless they're positive things about, like if they're like Dukakis from Massachusetts.
Has anyone else lived in another state and named the state and tell me what politics was like there as opposed to what it's like here? Anybody else?
haven't lived in another state, but I'd like to make a comment on what's said earlier about the media because I think it's relevant to what we're talking about now. And we say that the media has blown all the problems out of proportion, and that's why everybody feels so negatively about our state. But if that was true, then states up as far as Washington would be having the negative image of us that they have, because they don't get the State Times and Morning Advocate up there, and they still know what a bad condition we're in. So it's not just the media, it's everybody knows.
Okay, my question is, of every candidate or as working in a campaign or just getting involved? Yeah?
I have to. Well, not have to, but I mean. Yeah.
Why?
I love it. I mean, it's so intriguing. I mean, and that's why I would never leave Louisiana, because I do want to go into politics or something dealing with politics. My mama is assistant, wait, let me see, she has a proper name, assistant executive campaign head of Edwards' campaign throughout the state. So she kind of like heads it everywhere. So I've been raised with that ever since I was born. I mean, she's been in this, and it's so intriguing. We are so unique here in Louisiana. Everything we do, it's like we're our own little country. And when we run for governor, we might as well have him running for president. Yeah. We know everything that's going on about everybody, and it's just, I don't know.
There's one thing though. I noticed today everybody has been getting on Edwards' case. Edwards is not the only person with a skeleton in his closet. I know everybody has a secret, and that needs to come out. And sooner or later, I don't care who you vote for, it's gonna come out. So.
The reason everybody's getting on Edwards' case is because he's the incumbent. That's what seems to happen in all cases. You blame on whoever's who's the incumbent.
Not that question a while ago.
You don't dig at everybody else.
I lived in Texas for a good while of my life, so, and ever since I've lived there, I have heard hardly anything about politics as I have in Louisiana. I mean, it's just hardly ever spoken of.
I think I used to live in Virginia and in Montana, and I moved here when I was in elementary school, and I asked my dad about that, if it was the same here as it was in other states, and he was saying that in the northern states, I mean, it's not as really controversial up there as it is down here. Because down here, they dig into people's personal lives, and up there, it didn't really matter to them, just as long as they had the qualifications to be what they were running for.
You ever all talk about politics outside of this class with your friends?
Yes. Definitely.
Can you, how old are most of you all?
15.
So you get 3 years to vote? Are you going to vote when you get?
Yeah, definitely.
That's right.
Every vote counts.
That's right.